Hey, my name is Skylar, which I'm probably sure that you know me by now because I've been in your class all semester. But this is my semester reflection on student teaching, observing in my high school classroom. So, first, I want to discuss culturally responsive teaching. Prior to this class, I had no idea what culturally responsive teaching is. I knew what culturally was, I knew what responsive was, and clearly I know what teaching was, but I had no idea what all of those meant together, which I kind of developed my own definition of creating a learning environment that's accepting and it values diversity, identity, and experiences of all students within the classroom. And in my classroom that I had, I wrote down there was three examples, well, three categories of culturally responsive teaching, and that went into deaf culture, the LGBTQ culture, and then just overall with the experiences of variation of families within the classroom. So first on deaf culture, of course it's an ASL classroom, and so integrating the deaf culture with the hearing culture is very important so that they understand what deaf culture even is. So they would integrate deaf cultural knowledge, so teaching of the history of education in the deaf culture and understanding like all the historical figures that came in, like Helen Keller or William W. Hoy, and all the other people that came into understanding why this culture is so important. There was visual customs that were made, so like flashing lights. So instead of, hey guys, like I need your attention, she would go over to the light switch and flip them, because that's how you get deaf people's attention, is by flicking the lights. There was like hands up was all throughout the classroom. Like as soon as you walked into the classroom, it was voice off and hands up. You were signing the whole time, just because that's a deaf culture custom. And then another thing that we do, at least in college as well, is called deer, which the sign for deer is here. And so if you want to get people's attention, you stand at the front of the classroom and go like this. And everyone, like once they look at you, put your hands up here, which means like their hands aren't busy, their hands are up here, they can't sign, they can't talk, and they're focused on the teacher. And as everyone starts to see across the classroom that, oh, they have it and they have it and they have it, they'll start to put their hands up and focus on the teacher. Moving into the second one, which is the LGBTQ culture, most of the classes that I observed whenever I was there was focused on the lessons of family. So whenever they taught about family, I mean, there's moms and dads and brothers and sisters and all that. But many people had two moms, or they had two dads, or they had siblings that didn't identify with a gender. And so the teacher would shift her curriculum. Instead of teaching like, oh, sister and brother, if you have a sibling, it would be in the neutral zone of your face and it would be neutral. So that was really interesting. Or like if you have two parents or two dads or whatever, and parents if you had two that didn't identify with gender. So I thought that was really interesting to teach that side of everything so that everyone could be included if they had a different family member that identified with another gender. Additionally, in my third category of family experiences, this is one that I directly experienced, which was all improvisation of what I was going to do. But we were working on family trees, and a student came up to the teacher, which I sat at the desk with the teacher, and we were just talking about like different like curriculums and going over the lesson and what her project, like her goal of this project was. And a student came up to the desk and was like, hey, so they're supposed to include five family members, like mom, dad, siblings, pets, whatever, and they could create a family or like do their actual family. And the kid came up to the desk, and he was like, I live with my grandma, like I don't want to do like I don't have a mom, I don't have a dad, like they all died, but and like it was getting emotional, and the teacher had no idea how to respond. She was kind of just like staring at him, and I was like, I didn't know. And she was like, well, you can create a family. And he's like, I don't want to create a family. He's like, that doesn't make sense. He's like, why would I create a family if I already have a family, but my family's dysfunctional? And just seeing them go at it, and I kind of like looked at him and I was like, do you have a favorite TV show? And he was like, I do. I like WWE. And I was like, oh my gosh, why don't you create a family tree of all the wrestlers and see where you would fall? And like, who would you want to be your brother and your mom and your dad? And like, he went off with it. He was like, this is amazing. And it ran. And that was the best way I could respond to that situation. Going into my second category is daily objectives. I noticed that my teacher did not have daily objectives posted around the classroom. So like the TEKs or like I will do, we will do, and you will do, they didn't have that listed on the board anywhere. And when she'd start lessons, she would just open up with a PowerPoint and it'd be like family tree. And so like the kids kind of knew what the objective was, but didn't know how it connected. But whenever I taught my lesson, I taught about parameters. and I had the TEK listed at the bottom, and it said like, the students will understand the definition of phonology, morphology, and syntax, semantics, and everything, because that's the TEK for ASL. And that was a big conversation starter. They were like, what is phonology? What is morphology? Like, completely veered track of what we were doing. And it just opened up a whole new like area, and I taught them like, oh, so this is like linguistics, and like the phonology is this, and then like the way your parameters move, which is what I'm teaching you. And then morphology is this, like the meaning of each sign, and like morphology can connect, and like learning the syntax and semantics. And I went on to like this whole thing, and I've never seen them so engaged. Like, they learned so much just from that TEK alone, and they were excited to keep going. So that was a very good idea, and I didn't think about it, but I'm going to start including that in my future. And to close it up, because I'm already at the 5-minute mark, I have a few things that I learned and things that I need to learn and what I learned during the classroom. So the first thing that I had no knowledge of coming in was curriculum. Like, ASL has like a variety of curriculums. We have Signing Naturally, TWA, Master ASL, General ASL, so like everything. And each curriculum goes on different things. So like Signing Naturally is more focused on communication, while Master ASL focuses 50-50 on culture and history and science, and TWA is strictly communication. And so it was like a variation. So learning with the teacher, like sitting there, and she said she taught from all 3 curriculums. And I was like, okay, cool. We kind of like talked about it. And I learned from Master ASL when I was in high school, but she didn't really use Master ASL. And each sign was different because it like the whole like perspectives of people who signed within the curriculum was different. And so it was very interesting to see how she takes all these different curriculums and mainstreams them into one classroom. I thought that was interesting. Secondly, I learned how to do a unit plan over vocab. Like, I never understood, like, I don't understand how to do unit plans in general, and I was super confused. Like, I didn't know that's how you broke down your lessons. And so she like sat down and she showed me like, this is like the different methods I use for each vocab. And she was like, you want to learn how to do, like, when you're opening semester, since it's fall, she did family. Like, she started off with yourself, so you identify who you are. What are you doing? What's your dream? What do you want to do? And then she went into your family, and what does your family do? How does your family do this? What is y'all's family's beliefs? And then she went into houses, and it was like, it kind of slowly like merged into everything, instead of going, okay, we're going to learn about sports, and then we're going to learn about your like cultures, and then we're going to learn about food, and then we're going to learn about hospitals. Like, it wasn't super crazy. It was very like precise on how she wanted to do everything. I learned about team teaching with ASL teachers. There was 2 ASL teachers there, and they would team teach, but she taught ASL 1 and he taught ASL 2, and they would kind of go over the same unit, but ASL 2 would go into more like detailed vocabulary, I guess is the good word for it. He would really explain, like, okay, so she would do family, but he would do family as in like, okay, so you have these different family members, and this family member does this job, is this age, was born here, did this, and like really dug in deep into all your family, while she did very surface level of, who's your family member, how old are they, what's their name. In addition, for collaboration teaching, they took all the low teachers, so all the language other than English teachers, and there was like French, Mandarin, ASL, and Spanish. I think that's all they had. Maybe, I think there was a German teacher. I could be wrong. Anyway, they would all have a collaboration period, and it was kind of their lunch period, and they would all come and eat in the lunchroom, and they would all talk about it. And they're like, hey, I'm doing this vocab, and I kind of need help with this. How'd y'all include this? And they would like pitch in ways of their perspective of their language, and they'd be like, hey, I did this on this unit, and they would be like, oh, okay, that would help me. Or they would be like, hey, I think I'm going to teach about, there was a holiday, I forgot what the holiday was, but it was a Hispanic holiday, and they mentioned it, and they were like, oh my gosh, I think we should all teach about that, but like in all of our classrooms. And so they kind of taught about it. So like ASL, we learned more vocab based on the Hispanic culture. So we learned like Hispanic in Spain, and the history of Spain Sign Language, and examples of Spain Sign Language. And so we did that part whenever I think France talked about their alliance and like how their languages merged, and it was really cool. Anyway, but yeah, that's kind of how they team taught within that group, because you can't really teach ASL in a French class, and like, anyway. Three more things and I'm done. Professional development. I went to a study abroad thing in Canada over the summer, and I learned about international art and the organizations throughout all the art organizations throughout the world. Is basically what it was. But I learned about ASLTA, which is the American Sign Language Teacher Association, and I was like, I've never heard of that. And I thought it was interesting. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, it's just a whole bunch of people that come together and share their ideas. And I was like, I'm in a Facebook group. I'm fine. I have a Facebook group of all the ASL teachers. But then I heard about it from my teacher. And my teacher told me, she was like, it's great. Like, there's people from Canada that are in there that give ideas, that they give lessons. They talk about deaf news. They talk about articles in the news about how it's impacting deaf culture and how they can do protest against certain stuff. So like with the presidential election, they talked a lot about like the video relay services, and like there was a lot of articles based on that in Project 2025, and there was heavy information on that was like, this is good to share with your class so they understand. And I was like, this is awesome. And so I finally joined, and so now I'm a member. Two more things. Variations of regional signs. I came from North Texas and she's from here in Southeast Texas. So the signs that I sign up here are completely different from down here. So like I would sign stuff. So for example, I'd sign buffalo whenever she signs buffalo, which I mean, it's not really a big difference, but there's a difference because this down here means something different and this up there means something different. So there's two different versions of the sign. And so that was very interesting to actually experience that like real life, because I've heard about it, but I've never experienced it. And lastly, my last quote, even though it's like way over time, but I learned about behavioral intervention plans. I really didn't know what that was, and she kind of taught me about it. And then I had an experience where a girl was like sitting there with her head down. She came in super late. Like I had no idea what was going on, but I just sat there and kind of observed. And the teacher went up to her and tried to talk to her, and she just started yelling. And she was like, I need to go to the bathroom. And the teacher was like, you came in here really late. Like, you came in here 20 minutes late. Wait 10 minutes, and then you can go to the bathroom. And the teacher went and sat at the desk, and I was sitting right next to her. We were going over some of the curriculum again. And the student came up to the desk and was like, I need to go to the bathroom because I have an accommodation. And because when I was younger, I was R-worded. And like literally yelled this in front of like the whole class. So we was talking loud. And she goes, so I have to go to the bathroom. And the teacher and I just kind of like looked at each other, and she's like, okay, you can go to the bathroom. And so she went to the bathroom, and she came back, and she like went right back to her desk after being gone for like 20 more minutes. Came back with like 6 minutes left in the class period, sat down, grabbed her stuff, and left. And then she got like a nasty email from the mom later saying like she should know this. And the teacher was like, I went back in all her like documentation, and there was nothing stated about this incident, and like she only had accommodations for behavior but nothing about bathroom accommodations. And so like that was huge. And so she was like, it's important that you talk to family members about that to make sure you have every accommodation, to make sure everything's listed, because stuff like that needs to be known so you don't like deny their access for certain things in the classroom. But yeah, so overall, that was what I learned from my whole semester of observing at a high school. And it was very knowledgeable and very, very needed. And I think this is a good start for my clinical teaching next semester. So thank you for watching.